Hi there. Welcome to Rackspace's Hangout on Air, where today we're going to be going through a walkthrough of your cloud control panel. My name is Will, and I work on the cloud onboarding team here at Rackspace in the UK. So we'll be talking about all things cloud today. The main aim really is just to make sure that you're able to get the most out of your account. So we'll be going through all different features of the control panel. So looking at each different product, what the features are, and how to implement them. Then we'll also be touching on how to access support and the nuts and bolts of managing the account. So we understand that everyone has different needs. If there's anything that we speak about today that you do want to discuss in more detail, by all means, just give us a call. I'll paste our onboarding number in the description of this video. But we'd love to help you out if there's anything else that you want to discuss after watching this video. So what I'd like to do is just go ahead and jump in. I'm going to switch over to my screen just so that we can follow along and look at the same thing as we're going through the control panel. So we'll just switch over to my account here. So what I'd like to do is just go through each one of these products and how to get started using them. Before we go through that, just a couple things that are important to know about using the account that I want to touch on. There are some important options up here at the top of the control panel under this gray bar. So one of the most important things to know is how to access technical support. Basically, we have three main support channels that we offer. They're all available 24/7, and they're included in your account support fee. So we've got a phone number for any urgent issues. We have a live chat for any quick questions. And then under the support tab, we have an option to log a support ticket. So all of these three different options will go directly to technical support. So if there's ever any questions that you have or help you need troubleshooting, anything like that, by all means, don't hesitate to get in touch with us through one of these ways. One other thing I just want to show within this support tab, we've got a link to our Knowledge Center here. So this basically functions as a library of pretty much everything that you can do with the account. So you can have a click through each one of these different products to get some help getting started, frequently asked questions, that type of thing. And you can also have a search around if there's anything specific that you're looking to do. Also, within the Rackspace support network, we do have API documentation. If you are looking to work with the API, there's some great getting started guides here. And we've also got a link to our community where we have forums for users to discuss things if there's anything that you need help with or that you want to start a chat about. Now, I want to go through some of the sort of administrative options that you have within the account. Up here in the top right-hand corner, you'll find your account username and your account number here if you need those for reference. But you'll see sort of some billing and payments type options here. So that's the first one that I want to go through. This basically will give you the ability to download PDFs of all the invoices that you've generated on your account. You can also update any credit card information, billing address, info if you need to here. But basically, this will just give you a description of all the line item charges that you've incurred on your account. So if you need them for accounting, for reference or anything, you can find those in the billing and payments section. So those look at previous billing cycles. We've also got a usage overview, and this one is going to look at the current billing cycle. So this is going to update every 24 hours with all the utility charges that you've incurred so far. So as you probably know by now, with this cloud account, you're really just paying for what you use. So this will just give you a better idea of what all those utility charges are. So looking at my account, I've had servers up for a certain number of hours. I'm storing a couple of images, and I've also got some bandwidth going out. So this just really gives you an idea of what to expect when you do get your invoice at the end of that billing cycle. Now, one other feature I want to show you in here is user management. So if you're the primary contact of the account, but you have somebody else who may need to log in, whether they're a technical contact or they're the billing contact, you can just set them up a new username and password. So this will obviously be able to let them log in directly to the account. You'll be able to set a user's permissions. So if you have a purely technical contact that you don't want to have access to billing, you can simply set billing at no access and product access to full. Likewise, if you want to have a purely administrative contact, you can set this to no access and maybe set billing to admin. You can also customize this based on each product. So if you only wanted someone to have access to cloud files, for example, you can set that up here. This is really important to do because if anybody else wants to call in and speak to Rackspace support, we would always verify over the phone with a security question and answer. So if you do want anybody else to be able to speak to Rackspace support, just make sure that you share those details with them. So last admin option that I want to show here is general account settings. Here is where you'll find your API key. So if you are working with the API, this is a unique key to yourself. It's hidden at first. You'll just need to click that show link if you do want to work with any third-party program or programming yourself that works directly with the API. You can also change your contact information here. So those are the main sort of office options, if you like. What I'll do now is just go back over to the cloud servers page. So any servers that you've got running on your account will show up here. What I'd like to do now is just create a new one so we can see what that process looks like. So it is a pretty simple and quick process to create one. You just need to hit that create server button and then choose a few options here. So the first option is to give the server a name. This can be whatever you'd like, just to make it easier to identify your different servers. So why don't I just call this one Hangout for now? You'll be able to choose the region where you would like to spin up this cloud server. So I'm using a UK account, so I just have access to our data center that's here in London. If you're using a US-based account, you'll also have access to our data centers in the US, in Sydney, and in Hong Kong. Next step is to choose the image, so the operating system that you'd like to use on the server. So as you can see, we've got a bunch of different options, different distributions of Linux, versions of Windows. So you can just select whichever one of these that you want to use on your server. For now, I'm going to create a CentOS 7 server. From here, we'll select the flavor of the server. So this basically relates to all the technical specs that you need. As you can see, it's identified in terms of gigabytes of RAM, and you can see how the rest of those technical specifications scale up as you move this slider up and down. You'll also be able to see the price per hour in terms of infrastructure for each one of these servers. We've got three classes here, Performance 1, Performance 2. The difference between those is mainly just the size of RAM that's attached. And then we also do have another class of servers here that's standard. These are a previous generation of servers. They use spinning disks instead of solid state. So there is a bit of difference in terms of disk I/O performance there, and you'll be able to see that reflected in this diagram here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a small Performance 1 server for now. Lastly, you just have some advanced options here that you can change if you'd like to. If you'd like to log into a Linux server using an SSH key and you've got the key, you can just go ahead and paste it here. If you don't, you'll just receive an automatically generated root admin password that will let you log into the server via SSH. You've also got options for networks here. So this one by default is connected to 3. Public net, which means that the server is connected to the public internet. You'll get an IP address of that server. We've also got ServiceNet, which is our internal data center network just within Rackspace. And you can also create a private network just for your own devices if you'd like to. So once you're happy with all of those options, you just need to hit that create server button. And you'll receive the root admin password of the server when you do so. So obviously this is just automatically generated. We'll dismiss that for now. If you do want to change the password of the server, you can always do so using this Actions tab. That change password option will be available once the server is fully built. So this server should be up and running within a couple minutes. Basically, the hardware is just being provisioned. Operating system is being installed at the moment. So if I go back to this servers tab we saw earlier, our new server has popped up with its IP address, and this yellow bar just means that it's still building. But once that's up and running, you'll have full access to the server, so you can go ahead and log in via SSH and install anything that you need to on there. Once you've created the server, there are two main options that we always recommend to set up if there's anything that's sort of mission critical on the server. Those options are monitoring and backup. So monitoring, you'll see there's a plus icon that's over here on the right-hand side of each one of your servers. You'll be able to set up a number of checks on each one of your servers. So whether that's looking at a specific website, a port, or just pinging the server itself, just to make sure that those are up and running. Or you can also monitor things like memory, CPU, file system, just to make sure that you're aware of how those resources are being used, and that you would get a proactive notification if anything were to fail. So managed infrastructure customers can choose to send these to themselves or to any technical contact that's attached to the account. And managed operations customers can choose to have them sent to themselves or just to Rackspace technical support for us to action. So it looks like that new server is up and ready to use now. So that other option that I want to talk about is backup. Backup is actually a separate portion of the control panel. It's another tab over here. Using the backup agent to get started just involves installing the agent itself onto a server if you are on the managed infrastructure service level. If you're using managed operations, this will be already installed for you. So as you can see, I don't have a server that's got the backup agent installed at the moment. But once you've installed that agent, and there is that guide on how to do so over here on the right, you'll be able to see the backup working here. You can restore it at any time. You can customize it depending on what files you want included, excluded, how frequently that takes place, what time of day. You do get a lot of control over it. So that backup is going to work at a file level, and you can choose specifically what's included. If I go back to the servers tab, I'll show you another option that will also give you a bit of redundancy in terms of backing things up. You'll see if you click this cog icon next to the server name, there are a few different options, and one of them here says create image. So if you create an image of the server, that's going to take a snapshot of everything that's on the system disk and save it as one file. So in the event that you did want to delete a server for a short amount of time and then create it again later using the same system configurations, you can simply create a server from that saved image instead of having to completely start fresh. It is important to note that when you do that, an image will only take a snapshot of the system disk that's attached to your server. So anything that's stored on the data disk won't be included, which is why we recommend to use Cloud Backup for that disk. So that create server process will just create a fresh cloud server running one of those operating systems that we just saw. We also have another option here that will allow you to create a stack. So similar to creating a cloud server, this will allow you to create a new server, choose the operating system that you want, but you'll also be able to choose some software that's pre-installed on there. So we have a number of different templates here that you can use. So let's say you wanted to use Drupal on your server. Basically, this would allow you to select whether you want a single server or multiple servers. This would deploy those servers automatically and install the Drupal software on there. So it just saves you a bit of time. You don't have to go manually installing that software on the server itself. There's no charge for using a stack this way or having this software installed. you're just paying the normal infrastructure charges that you would be if you did this manually. So there's a bunch of different options here. There's a LAMP stack, there's PHP, Rails, WordPress. So basically just depending on what software you'd like to use, it'll just save you a bit of time by using one of those stacks. Once you go into the next steps, you'll be able to choose all the other options that we saw. So number of servers that you need, operating system, and size of RAM that you need. So those are some of the most important options with using cloud servers. I just want to step back for a minute and speak about the benefits of setting up a solution that's set up to be redundant. So Rackspace offers cloud load balancers that will give you a public IP address, and you can attach any cloud servers that you'd like to that load balancer. So basically the benefit of this is that instead of having just one cloud server that kind of acts like a single point of failure in case of hardware failure or anything like that, if you have a redundant solution with multiple cloud servers attached to a load balancer, it just gives you a bit of a backup in case anything were to go wrong with one of your servers. You'd basically have some resiliency there in place. So I'll just show you how to create a load balancer now and how to attach cloud servers to them to set that up. So load balancers is the next tab here on from servers. To create a new one, I'll hit this create load balancer button. And then you can choose a few different options here. So under this add node section, you'll be able to add any cloud servers that you've got on your account. So let's say I've got these two servers that have the same website on them and are working in tandem. They've been synced. I'll just add those selected servers here. As you can see, these have different IP addresses, and you're able to choose the algorithm that the load balancer will use so that any traffic that's sent to the load balancer's IP will then be distributed to those two IP addresses using one of these algorithms that you choose. You can actually also create a load balancer using external nodes as well. If you do have a server stored elsewhere, that's not a problem. You can still use a load balancer to direct traffic there. So once you've created a load balancer, you can see that you get a public IP address there. So that's what you can use to send traffic to for all your DNS records. So this IP address we call static because basically if you create a cloud server, you get an IP address that lives and dies with it. So if you did ever need to delete the server, spin up a new one, or resize, change the resources that are allocated, you would get a new IP. So even if you are just working with a single cloud server, but you think you may need to scale up in future, that's why we recommend to use a load balancer to secure that static IP address. There are some other important options of load balancers that you'll see here. So you can set up the load balancer with an SSL certificate. You can use the load balancer to cache some from frequently accessed content. And you can also set up health monitoring here. So this will just make sure that a cloud server or external node is functioning correctly before any traffic is sent there. You can also see statistics once you've started to use the load balancer for any traffic that's coming in. So next thing that I want to talk about is Cloud Files. So Cloud Files is Rackspace's object-based storage system. And there are a few different use cases that will benefit from Cloud Files. So a couple different types of containers that you'll see here are private, public, and static website. A container will basically just act like a folder that you can dump your files into. So you can use a private container, for example, if you just want to use the files for personal backup, you can just create a container that will only be accessible by yourself using the control panel or using the API. If you select a public container, any files that are uploaded to that container will be broadcast to the content delivery network. So let's say you've got a website with some static files like images, and you've got users accessing those files from all around the world. If a user is going to access the file from very far from the original data center, they're going to experience some latency as they have to get that file from halfway around the world. So using the content delivery network will broadcast your static files to this global CDN so that users on the other side of the world can simply pull that file from the node that's closest to them instead of having to access it from the original data center. So it's really going to speed up their performance. If you do have a static website, for example, just HTML files, you can actually host that simply using Cloud Files as well. You'll get public links to any files that you upload to a public container or to a static website container, and then you can use those in your web development or to share. So just to show you, I've got a container here called images, which is a public container. And we've got an image in here. Using this cog icon, you'll see that there's a view all links option. And that's going to give you 4 links: HTTP, HTTPS, streaming, and iOS streaming. So these links will go directly to that file. So if I copy this one and then paste it here, this will show up with our furry friend here. So moving on to the next product, just want to briefly talk about DNS. Rackspace DNS will basically work similar to any DNS service that you've used in the past. So basically, you'll just need to create a domain name, enter your email address, and the time to live. And then you'll be able to access A records, MX records, CNAMEs, basically anything that you need for that domain. DNS is completely free to use, and main benefit is that it just lets you manage this from within the same control panel. Now, I also want to talk about our cloud databases product. So this is a relational database as a service. So if you're using one of the databases that we support here, which are MySQL, Percona, and MariaDB, you can create a database instance, and this will give you a really simple out-of-the-box database. Anything that's stored within a cloud database is triplicated, so data is stored on 3 different disks. That just makes it a bit more redundant and secure way to store your data. You can also use a cloud server to host a database, and that will basically work if you either are using a database platform that's not supported by cloud databases, like Windows SQL, for example, or if you wanted to have root access to the database to change configurations and things like that. But this database product will give you just very simple out-of-the-box option if you don't need to have lots of power to configure the server. So backup we've touched on briefly. I also just want to briefly explain Cloud Queues. Cloud Queues basically works through the API. So if there's any jobs that you need your servers to do that you would like multiple servers to work from a queue, you can simply set that up through Cloud Queues, but you will have to do so using the API. So unfortunately, there's not a lot that I can show using the control panel at the moment. But if you do need any help with this, there is actually a great getting started guide that's over here on the right-hand side. So then last tab I want to touch on here is under the More tab, you'll see a couple links here. One is to Mailgun, which is great for sending marketing emails. We've also got a link to Object Rocket that will give you MongoDB as a service. And then last option here says featured partners. That will take you straight to our Cloud Tools marketplace. So if there's anything that you want to do that's not covered within our Cloud Control Panel, really specific monitoring, for example, increased security enhancements, things like that, we've got lots of recommendations here that will integrate quite nicely with our cloud. So whether you want to look at something like New Relic here, Cloudflare, basically a lot of them give you a free trial or a free tier of service as a Rackspace customer. And they are things that we do recommend setting up. So I think that's all we've got time for today. Hopefully you found that useful. Like I said, if there's anything that you do want to discuss in further detail, by all means, just get in touch with us and we'd be more than happy to help out. But thank you for watching today, and hopefully see you next time.